Hi there, my name is Renee Hobbs, and this is LSC 530, Texts and Tools for Children and Youth at the Harrington School of Communication and Media, the graduate program in Library and Information Studies at the University of Rhode Island. And today's date is Monday, October 6th. We are steaming through the class. I am very, very grateful, Billy and Christine. I'm grateful to you for joining us for this live class. We have lots of activities packed as we move through this this middle of the semester. Let me just share my screen with you, and we'll do kind of an overview of what we're going to be talking about tonight. Let's see here. I've put our class page for October 6th here called Teens and Libraries. Hopefully students have clicked here to join the live hangout. So if you haven't done that yet, please feel free to do that. I want to talk a little bit about my Copyright Clarity MOOC. I want to invite you to take the digital learning poll. I'm going to talk about the feedback I'm going to be providing you on your reflective writing. I want to talk a little bit about some advocacy stuff going on. And then we're going to basically work through some activities where we try to look at the U-Media Chicago example in relationship to what we read in the YALSA Teens and Libraries white paper. We're going to think a little bit about this concept that audiences negotiate meaning. And then there'll be some non-synchronous activities for you to do for next week. But I wanted to start by doing a little bit of reflection on what I noticed about the work that you did for me from last week. And so what I'm going to do is go back to last week. I was really, really happy to see that you contributed so usefully, and I thought pretty effectively, to the Flipgrid. I asked you to watch the best practices of the read aloud, and I think almost all of you contributed some insights on what you noticed, what ahas you got. So starting with Aaron, you identified this whole theme about, animals and stories that feature animals being kind of timely and timeless. And Tammy, you were the first person to talk about the whiplash effect and the importance of not moving the book too much, and the importance of running your fingers underneath the letters to make that connection between the sound of the language and the print language. Billy, you talked a lot about this idea of not finishing the book as a way to promote independent reading. You also talked about your own experience in helping kids to predict the endings or what would happen next. And of course, we know predicting is a great strategy to improve reading comprehension and understanding of story structure. Jordana, you were the one who talked about Franklin the Turtle, and you were the first person to bring out the idea of the librarian or the story reader's posture and position, right? And you also helped us be reminded why you don't want to be asking questions in the middle of the story. Michael, you also talked about this idea of not rushing and of really thinking about not letting questions interfere with the flow of the story. Chelsea, you also referenced the whiplash effect, and you spent a little bit more time about how the librarian has to think a lot about, really carefully about what book to choose. That's the most important choice, the most important choice of all. Amy, your insight about not changing the words was interesting. Amy, you noticed that when you watch librarians do read-alouds, you sometimes see them changing the words, and that can be confusing even for young children who are emerging readers. When librarians change the words, that can actually mess them up as young readers. Christine, you talked a lot about the importance of engaging kids and also explaining unfamiliar words like what a den is. You know, it's a cave where bears hang out. Valerie, you mentioned the power of picking a book that you really like. When you really like a book, you love reading it aloud. And Valerie, you also dealt with the importance of pitch and tone of voice and the importance of not being nervous. Audra, what I really liked about your comment was that you talked a lot about the idea of there being a commercial break in between reading books, and also the power of doing activities like songs and finger games and other things. And Jess, you were the last one to contribute, and you talked a lot about the idea that the hardcover book does facilitate reading aloud. I for sure noticed that, because when I was thinking about reading aloud The Pirate's Guide to First Grade, I was struggling with the fact that it is a paperback and incredibly unwieldy, you know, as a read aloud. There are real disadvantages. I bet I could do it, but I just feel that a hardback definitely gives me a little bit more control. Okay, so the other thing I want to talk a little bit about is your beautiful work on the Padlet wall. One of the reasons why I wanted you guys to have the experience of exploring a digital bulletin board is I wanted to find a way to get you to work together on something, and I also wanted to see what your design skills were. Why do you think it's important for a librarian to have good design skills when it comes to things like a bulletin board? Billy, Christine, what are your thoughts on that? What?
Sorry. I mean, it's for a lot of kids, just getting used to learning, having a visual to support whatever you're trying to get across is really helpful to them. Also, I mean, I've found in my experience that learning how to design things more appropriately helps me organize my own thoughts better. And it helps me in organizing in general, being able to visualize it, even just in writing papers, visualizing how I want it to look helps me to get there.
Yeah, you know that I know a lot of graduate students who actually do PowerPoint slides as a form of pre-writing, right? Because you think through the sequence and you think through kind of the structures of organizing ideas. Christine, what's your take on why design skills like designing a bulletin board are valuable for future school and public librarians?
So I think it's probably helpful for if in our working lives we have to, you know, develop displays, or you know, and just in general, it's useful to think about how you want to visually attract someone to information and how it's going to be perceived by the viewer. Sorry, this is my dog.
That is pretty adorable, and you're making a key point there.
Yeah.
That good design is sensitive to how the audience is encountering the work, and how the audience, how a reader's eyes move over that bulletin board, and what the reader's eye is drawn to. So you really have to decenter. To be a good designer, you have to decenter and not be thinking about your point of view, but actually be thinking about the designer's point of view. So Christine and Billy, I got a project for you. We're going to look at the 6 Padlet walls that were created. One for Voya, one for Technology Review, one for the New York Times Children's section, one for School Library Journal. And working together, the two of you are going to talk through who gets the first prize. And, oh, by the way, you can't vote for your own. You can't vote for yourself. Okay? All right. So here we go. I'll do screen share, and you guys are going to have to debate amongst yourselves what are the strongest what is the strongest bulletin board from a design sensibility? Okay, that's really what we're doing. Is we're looking at design, and you guys are talking me through your evaluation of design. Okay, so let me just get to the right spot here. Here we are. I got to go back to right here. And I'm scrolling down. Okay, here we go. First up, Michael and Jennifer. Leah. Okay. Next one, hornbook.
I like the way in the horn book that they included the horn and sort of, I don't know, I like the way they were very thoughtful with where they put their images.
I like the mix of three column, 2-column structures. I like that these are 2-column and these are 1 column. I like the mix. I think that's cool. Okay. Common Sense Media.
Oh, that's cool. They changed the background. I didn't know you could do that.
I like the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to try to figure out how to do that, but I couldn't figure it out.
I'm interested in this little shape here that's kind of triangular, right?
Cool.
It's on the top, and it seems like it's triangular. And it's an embedded video. That's interesting.
Yeah, I like the way you can highlight.
Yeah, I like the highlight. All right, next up, Children's Technology Review. New York Times Children's Book Review. School Library Journal. I like that this has a point of view, right? I feel like I can hear I feel the voice of the author.
It feels very, I don't know, it feels kind of like a MySpace page to me.
I don't think Erin and Chelsea have completed this assignment. So, okay, so now talk amongst yourselves and make your choice.
Okay. I don't know, I'm tempted to, I really liked the Common Sense Media one, but I'm wondering if it's just because they changed the background.
I thought, I mean, I also agree that changing the background was a good way to kind of catch your attention. I kind of liked, a few of them were set up a little bit more like web pages than bulletin boards, where, like Renee mentioned, they had different columns. I liked that. Maybe it's just because, I grew up on websites and stuff, so it's a very familiar format to me. But I thought it was I liked some of those a lot.
Okay, so Christine and Billy, you are now charged with awarding a first prize for design sensibility. And the winner is...
One second, I'm just kind of re-looking through them all really fast.
I'm torn between two. I think I'm going to have to go with the one I liked the best was the Common Sense Media. Although I also really liked the Horn book.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn between the Common Sense Media one and then the, what was the other one? The Children's Technology Review one.
Okay, so you guys want to work together to award the first prize?
Well, I can't vote for Children's Technology Review because that was mine.
Well, I can't vote for the Horn book one because that one was mine. So maybe we should go with the, what was it, the Common Sense?
Yeah, I like the Common Sense Media.
Okay, there you go. You guys came to a good consensus. Now you got to give, just like an acceptance speech, you have to give the qualities that you like about it, okay? So you guys can each say something nice about it so we understand what is the design sensibility that you like about it.
I really like how, I mean, obviously the background catches your eye, but I also like the kind of the mix of images they use too. It's obviously cute, you know, it's dealing with kids and stuff, so I mean that always wins brownie points. But also, I feel like everything's arranged very nicely. You've got bullet points, you've got a list under the two kids reading where it's clearly, you know, like links that you can get more information from. I just think it's got a nice organizational structure to it.
Okay, cool. Christine, your take on why are you awarding the prize to this one?
I like how it kind of had columns to a certain extent. It made it feel almost like you were looking at a physical bulletin board where you'd see like lists. I liked the embedded video. I feel like they really thought about the graphic quality. I feel like the color scheme is really appropriate. I feel like it's fun, but it's still appropriate for like an educational resource.
Wow, very strong reading of the characteristics, the visual characteristics that are working here. So it goes without saying that it's really important for librarians to develop design competence for all the outreach and public programming communication that's part of the service of the job. So I'm also glad that you had the opportunity to work together on something like a digital bulletin board. Now I want to welcome Chelsea and Michael who have joined Billy and Christine. So yay! We're glad you're
Hi.
so glad you're here. One of the things I really enjoyed reading this week was your reflections on the YALSA white paper, and you did that reading on the Titan Pad, and I am noticing that you are really beginning to use the Titan Pad as a place of reflection, and you're summarizing, you're paraphrasing, and you are analyzing. And Michael, I want to give you real props for a key idea that you introduced in this Titan Pad about the profound problem of the high school dropout rate. And it's really clear that is a social problem that libraries absolutely can address. So I was really pleased about that. I was really pleased to see reference to the challenge of the quiet issues, right? Which there's some anxieties about whether teen services addresses issues of quiet. Jordana, I was really pleased about your observation about this idea of how teen libraries might link up professionals in different fields or be a bridge between mental health of the community and the general public. I really appreciated, Christine, I really appreciated your concern about this fear that you have along with other children and teen librarians about doing technology just for the sake of doing technology. That is a really important point to address and to be challenged with. And Jennifer, I thought this point you made about libraries needing to be an absolutely safe space, and the way that space is used in a library in order to create spaces where teens can be comfortable. And Jessica, I thought, obviously the most powerful metaphor of the report is something about a kitchen, right? Libraries used to be grocery stores where you walk down the aisles and pick stuff off the shelf. Now it's more like a kitchen. And then the concluding with the idea of libraries being a place where students can pursue their passions. I was really pleased with the good evidence of careful reading and synthesis that you demonstrated in this Titan Pad. And what I want to do now is talk a little bit about some things that are going on in my life that I thought you guys should know about. So I'm hoping you're on the Teens and Libraries page so I can stop projecting it. But I hope that you check out those hyperlinks that I put there. First thing I want to talk about is the great, amazing thing that happened today, which is I started teaching my first MOOC. A MOOC is a massive online open course. There are 560 people enrolled in my MOOC on copyright clarity. Perhaps you are one of them, but possibly not because you are overworked graduate students. But 560 people are signed up for this MOOC. We're expecting they're going to spend about 69 minutes per week reading, watching videos, and interacting with each other in the space. And I was amazed to wake up this morning and see that like 25 people had already posted their homework assignment. So like, oh, people are really doing this from all over, very many countries. I think so far we have like 40 people from 40 countries. And it's kind of cool. So I'm going to keep you posted on what that experience is like. It's another kind of teaching online. It's another kind of professional development program, and it's free. So I expect I'm going to learn a lot. I'll probably make a lot of mistakes, but I'll keep you posted. The next link down, as you're following down on the page, says, take the RI Digital Learning Poll. I really hope that if you're live with me online, you click on that link now. And I don't want you to fill out the questionnaire right now, but I want you to look down the list and tell me, what's your prediction? Which of these 12 items do you think will be the most controversial? This is a public opinion poll for people in Rhode Island to share their opinions about digital learning. As you look at that poll, what's your prediction about which questions will be most controversial? That is, most likely to have people saying strongly agree and strongly disagree. Who wants to go first? Which of those items might be the more controversial items, would you think?
I have one.
I think the one.
Oh.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say about the filtering policies.
Why do you say that?
I think, didn't we have a discussion about that at one point? And, we had a lot of different opinions about, I think there's a different, situation for schools, but about, controlling information that children have access to, particularly with regard to the internet. I think there's a lot of different opinions.
Thanks for sharing. So that filtering question is likely to be controversial. Any other questions that you think might be controversial?
I would think the one about using cell phones and social media for learning would be pretty big.
Why do you say that? Why?
Well, just going off of like when I was in school, we weren't allowed to even have our cell phones like in our backpack or anything, so it's such a distraction. And I think a lot of the problem won't come from justifying it as a learning tool, but in the regulation of that. Like, how do you know someone isn't on their Facebook just being on Facebook versus being on Facebook to learn something. So there's a lot of gray area in there that I don't think people will be comfortable with.
A lot of gray area there. Any other controversies that you anticipate? If there were one more question you think might create some controversy among families, parents, citizens, and voters in Rhode Island?
I think there's the possibility on the last one, the one about a blend of face-to-face and online learning opportunities. I know personally, before taking these grad school courses that I'm taking now, I didn't know a lot about. Sorry, I got something playing on my computer right now. Sorry. I know I had a lot of mixed feelings about it, and having not known that much about how it worked. I mean, I feel like a lot of people don't, and I feel like there will be some reticence to pushing away from face-to-face and more towards online stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree, Billy, and I feel like in some ways, even people who have experienced online learning may have experienced the deadly kind.
That's what I had in undergrad. I mean, it was kind of you're on your own, answer the message boards, and turn in your assignments on time, and I never once saw my teacher or any of my classmates.
So there might be some hostility to that idea of blended learning if people think what it is something like that. Yeah, so I'm really glad I will be reporting the data on that on October 25th at the RIDE Technology Conference. And I do invite you guys to come to that. I think it's a great networking event, especially if you want to get hired as a school librarian. Virtually every principal and every superintendent and almost every librarian who's doing anything with technology is going to be there at the Providence Convention Center, October 25th. If you type in RIDE Technology Day, you'll see it's free and easy to register. I'll be presenting the data at that event, and it'd be lovely for you to come. All right, I'm going to make just a few comments on the reflective writing. Right after this class, I'll send you an email with my feedback and your grade for the first chunk of reflective writing. In general, you all told me more or less the same things. You all told me that you're working hard and that the format of the course is different and that you're doing your best to make sense of the big ideas from the course readings. Some of you engaged with the course readings more deeply than others, and that was a real issue for this reflection, for you to do that. And some of you told me what you might be thinking about for your final projects, and some of you didn't. That's okay. But all of you gave me some evidence that you're investing the kind of effort that you need to get your money's worth out of this graduate course and acquire some expertise that's really portable. Now, lots of you told me that you didn't think you were using Twitter or social media to its fullest potential in this class, and so I want to talk a little bit about that because I agree. Very few of you are using Twitter the way we could be using it this semester, and so I kind of want to invite you to step up your game a little bit because the class will be a lot more fun, and we'll learn a lot, and we'll get to know each other better if you do so. So tonight what I want to do is show you a couple of ways to take advantage of the power of Twitter as a research tool. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to invite you to go to the block that says Talk Twitter, because I've put a couple things up there that are new that I want to make sure you take a look at. First thing I want to do is demonstrate a tool that I use to stay tuned to Twitter. It's called Tweetdeck. Is anybody using Tweetdeck, or has anybody used Tweetdeck? Mm-hmm. Yes? No?
No.
No.
No, I haven't.
Okay, got it. So
no.
Tweetdeck is really cool. TweetDeck works, it's owned by Twitter now, and it interfaces with Twitter. So when I click on it, it remembers that I'm Renee Hobbs. And what it does is it allows me to monitor a whole lot of conversations on Twitter all at the same time. So here on my home panel, I'm basically my followers, or the people I'm following are here, right? And people who have referred to me, I see here under notifications. So this woman named Judy Arts is saying, I hope you can join Teacher Ed Chat tonight to discuss digital portfolios and let your students know. So if you guys are still around at 9 p.m. tonight, and if you use the Teacher Ed Chat, teachers from all over the country are going to be talking about digital portfolios. And that's a really powerful professional development tool. So I'll probably click on Teacher Ed Chat, right? And it's asking me to add a column. I'm going to add that column. And now basically a stream of Teacher Ed Chat posts are going to come up, right? Because they're talking about portfolio learning. So you can see that I'm monitoring a bunch of hashtags that are part of my, like I said, I only do 10 minutes a day, but 10 minutes of very good sharing really helps me. EdChat RI is the educators in Rhode Island. Of course, I'm always searching on media literacy. Media literacy is a kind of common topic for me to search on, and so you can see as I scroll down, I'm seeing basically everybody in the last hour who's used the phrase media literacy. Most of these are not that useful to me, but I might see something. Here's, so there's some interesting things to look at. And I'm kind of going down here. Looking at people who, some of these people I know and some of these people I don't know. And, oh, very interesting point. Human 2.0 says media literacy is important for everyone. Let's teach boys about airbrushing. And then there's a link to, obviously, somebody who is teaching boys about airbrushing, and a link to somebody called the Good Men Project, which is really intriguing. Right? So I'm checking media literacy this way. I'm checking digital literacy. I always have a column for myself to see who's tweeting using my name. SAP SMB Chat is a group of entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are really interesting to me because I would like librarianpreneurial, and I realize that that's very unusual. It's in fact, some people say that librarianship and entrepreneurship are oxymoronic, meaning you never find a librarian who's entrepreneurial. I want to fix that. So I'm paying a lot of attention to entrepreneurs by watching this chat on entrepreneurs and how they think. Because I'm teaching about fair use, I'm surfing on fair use, and I'm also twittering about fair use. But you can see that there's a really robust conversation here as lawyers and educators are sharing information quite widely. And so here's an example. Sue Kunda writes, cultural shift seems to be taking place around fair use. Pat Ofter study on fair use in documentary, and it links to this article from an online publication called Real Screen. There's my friend and co-author, Pat Ofter, and she is writing about a survey they did of documentary filmmakers saying documentary filmmakers used to be afraid of fair use and now they're not afraid of it anymore. So Tweetdeck is a really, I love this hashtag, IngChat. These are the English teachers who are writing about things like fan fiction, right, and other topics. So I love the IngChat teachers. This was the News Literacy Summit that I went to, so that was the back channel of a conference. I love the YALSA hashtag. So you can see here that the YALSA community is pretty active on the Twitter sphere, and they're sharing a lot of cool stuff. Like, looks like here there's a YouTube video called What's Next for Teen Services, and I haven't looked at that yet, so I'll probably want to look at that. So in case you feel like Twitter is drinking from the fire hose, the reality of it is these are, over a period of time, you start to recognize trusted sources who you know are going to have great information for you. And you start using those sources, and your own ability to search and find improves tremendously. So I'd like you to think about how you can make more effective use of Twitter as a research tool. And I'm also interested in having you think about how you can make better use of Twitter as a community building tool for the 12 of us. Now I'm sharing with you a really cool website called scene.co that lets me display tweets that our LSC community has developed. You can see that just for the couple of days, looks like October 6th and 7th, we reached 3,600 people with our tweets. And you can see the tweets really show that, you know, I'm doing most of the heavy lifting. Although there are some people who are tweeting. My friend Asli Telli from Turkey retweeted this tweet. That's kind of cool. So she's following us. Michael, I see your tweets. Tammy, Jessica LeMay, Allegra, Chelsea, and some people who are retweeting us, right? Culture Media Ed is retweeting. Moises Lopez is retweeting. Harlem Librarian is retweeting us, right? So it's clear that our conversation with each other is actually reaching other people. Today I tweeted this beautiful chart about teens being more ambivalent about the value of public libraries than older adults. I'm worried about that. It only takes 2 generations to kill an institution. Look what's happening to journalism right now. Teens being ambivalent about libraries is dangerous for the future of libraries. Because when 12-year-olds stopped reading newspapers back in the early 1990s, they contributed to the decline of newspapers. So paying attention to young people's attitudes is really important. I did that for the last 2 weeks so that I could see who was using Twitter and why and how. But I'd like you to step up your game because Twitter is such a powerful way for us to get into a real conversation with each other. And I'm really glad you're here this week. And Valerie, I see that you've joined us, so I'm really glad you're here this week. But I want to make sure you're using Twitter as much as you can. Now, it's probably the case that you have some, like, reasons why you're not using Twitter, and I would really appreciate frank and candid feedback on, like, your ambivalence, reluctance, or general, like, about it. I'll be taking notes as the good researcher that I am. So, talk to me about that. Twitter. You're not using it. Why? Why not?
I have some thoughts, maybe. But it's also, it's hard to say exactly why, because I think it's partially that I'm not in the habit, and now, like, looking back over the week, there are some times when I had some thoughts about things we were discussing and things we were reading, and, like, the video that we watched and the YALSA thing about teens, which I found really interesting, but it's kind of tough to get into the habit of thinking, oh, I should formulate an eloquent tweet. I mean, the times I really think to tweet are when I find something on the internet that I think is really relevant and I want someone to share it with, and this particular community has a particular interest, and so like I found that really cute video about reading aloud, and we had just done the read aloud video, so I just put them together and thought, okay, this will work. But it's harder to get into the habit of I don't know, making a statement or having a comment and thinking to put it on Twitter.
Great point. So for you, sharing a resource you find seems a more natural way to participate in a community than actually developing an idea. That's cool. Thanks for sharing that. Other issues that you're experiencing as you experiment with tweeting. What's not working about it? What are you thinking and feeling? What's getting in the way of you tweeting more as part of this class?
Because I feel like, for me, I want to contribute more, but of course it will only let you post a certain number of characters. So then it's like, okay, boom, just cut you off. And then it's like takes away from your contributions in the classroom. That's what I think.
Thank you for sharing that, Michael. The concision that is forced upon you by 120 characters is a real tough issue, and it can be frustrating. So I'm really glad you're sharing that. Other reasons why tweeting is something that you're not quite there yet.
I'm there with Caitlin. It's not something that I'm used to doing. I've always shared with Facebook, and I've always thought of as Twitter as just that new trend that is unfortunately catching on. I've always felt that it was something more like it ruins TV for me, and I've always seen just really unfortunate comments on Twitter, which is why I don't appreciate it as much as maybe I should be, considering what we're going in for.
Okay, that's really helpful, because it's really true that if the perception of Twitter is that it's a superficial, let's talk about Justin Bieber, then that really could interfere. So this week I'm going to give you an assignment where you're forced to tweet about something. We'll see it when we go back to the assignment sheet, but I'm really hoping that we can actually engage with each other. It's partly because I don't get to experience you guys in the flesh. I'm missing the chance to have a conversation with you. And I can easily have a conversation with each one of you individually through Twitter in a way that otherwise I don't get to do. So I'm hungry for engaging with you more deeply, and I'm hoping if we try Twitter, we may be able to build our own relationship that way. Okay, so, well, here we are, steaming through this process, but maybe not quite quick enough. Let me go back to our page for this week. That's the page that's called Teens and Libraries. I want to talk to you about this amazing thing that's going on right now in Chelmsford, Massachusetts. If you go to Google and you Google support Val Diggs, you're going to learn about a really interesting case that's erupting in Chelmsford. Has anybody heard about this or learned about this? So Val Diggs is the librarian at, Boston Globe. That means it must have gotten in the Globe. Val Diggs is the school librarian at Chelmsford High School, and she was just fired. And she's 1 year away from retiring. She just was fired, and she was fired because the school district officials made a budget error, and they just figured the easiest way for them to cover up their budget problem was to fire some senior faculty. And so there's now a Facebook campaign, essentially, as the community starts to talk about the fact that this is probably an illegal action, that the students are organizing, right, to support her. So tomorrow it looks like there'll be a kind of an event happening in the library. it seems like the community is using Facebook as a social organizing tool to address this issue of a librarian being fired inappropriately. And I think that's a really cool. Thing that Twitter and Facebook are being used as an advocacy tool. So I'm really intrigued by that phenomenon. And I'm not sure that what the outcome of that research or that advocacy work will be, but it's really interesting to see that kind of advocacy playing out through the social media tool. And I do think that librarians have to be better at advocating for themselves and not just rolling over when they get crapped on by school administrators. Okay, so here's what we're going to do next. If you scroll down on the page, of course, you know how to keep multiple windows open. We're going to take a look at that 5-minute UMedia video. Maybe you've learned about the UMedia program before, maybe you haven't, but we're going to watch that 5-minute video and we're going to see if we can make any connections between that short YouTube video about UMedia and what we read about in the YALSA white paper. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch that YouTube video and then we're going to try to make connections and synthesize with the YALSA report. The best way for that, watch on your own. So at this point, what I'd like you to do is, looks like you've all muted your microphones. Thank you very much. Click on the video, watch the video, and then in 5 minutes, we will return to have a conversation. Do you have any questions before we begin? Okay, let's start watching.
I'm going to attempt to. I'm actually on my phone at work.
Oh, okay.
So
you may have bandwidth issues. If you can't do it because of bandwidth issues, that's cool. But otherwise, we'll see you guys back in 5 minutes when we, after we've watched the video.
Renee, you're still muted.
Oh, thank you very much. So I'm asking for a thumbs up when you finished viewing, and you guys kind of intuitively knew that. All right, so there's my question at the top. Let's discuss key ideas from the YALSA Teens and Libraries white paper in relation to this new youth media model. And let's wonder, is the U Media model an appropriate model for public libraries in Rhode Island? Why or why not? Who wants to go first?
I'd just like to say one of the students that they had there had mentioned that it's learning, but it's fun, and she mentioned specifically there are no teachers, which I thought was interesting in terms of the YALSA article we read about how librarians are kind of, I think the term they use is guide by the side, that they're not the teacher, they're not the authoritarian relationship, that they're kind of a learner and they're with the student, you know. Sure, maybe they have a little more expertise, but at the same time, it's the focus is on not me passing down my knowledge, but it's on us learning together.
Yeah, I think that issue of the non-authoritarian guide is a really key idea. Thanks for sharing, Billy. Other perspectives?
I like that they were talking about it being a middle ground, like a meeting place between print media and all of the stuff they have going with digital media and like the technology that they have available to the kids, so that they're able to pull a book off of the shelf, read it, and then go from there and kind of like translate. Pretty much they're bridging that gap themselves. Like they are the bridge from what we have written to where we're going and what you can make with this technology.
Yeah, thanks very much for that really interesting point. We heard Nicole Pinkard say at the very end, right, that that's dissolving the boundaries between media. So features of the U Media model, are they transferable to the public library in Rhode Island? Why or why not?
I think one issue, I mean, I don't know specifically because I don't know what the budget issues are in Rhode Island versus Chicago, but I know they mentioned a lot about, you know, like they've got 100 different laptops and desktop computers and stuff, so I wonder if we'd be able to afford that kind of level of interaction that they seem to be able to.
Good point. So Rhode Island's a poor state. Can Rhode Island libraries afford to create teen library spaces like that? That's one good question. Other perspectives on, is the U Media model a viable model for Rhode Island libraries? Why or why not?
I had a similar thought to what William was saying. And it's also, I don't know, it's really interesting when it comes into like incorporating technology into libraries, because I would say that, you know, the more technology you can have available, the better. But I know that that's not everyone's attitude, especially when a librarian has to be versed in every, you know, technology that is in the collection, and there, you know, each piece of technology might have its own issues. And so it might potentially, you know, it's not like buying a book where you know all the maintenance a book requires. It's another thing to buy, you know, a laptop or an iPad or an ebook. But I do think it's really worthwhile.
I think actually I'm really glad you raised that question, Christine. I feel like in some ways we did learn that in the U Media model that they had these artists, these media artists called youth mentors, right? And they had librarians. And then they said over time their job function became more similar, right? But in the beginning they weren't having librarians teach all this technology. They were having these artist mentors do that work. So it does raise some questions about do people have the skill set, right, to be able to manage the equipment and the teaching and everything else. Other key ideas that you think connected this youth media little profile to what we read in the white paper, or to your perceptions of whether this work is possible or generalizable or not.
I would say that in Rhode Island, because of the financial difficulties that we're experiencing right now, that I don't know if this is something that we could look into just yet, but maybe at some point in the future. And we also have to consider like the number of teenagers in Rhode Island who would benefit from this sort of thing, and younger children, younger people who are in adolescence who are becoming teenagers. Because if there's like a higher level of that, then maybe it would be something that we could consider. The other thing with the connection of the YASLA article, it seems like that this whole the U Media Center is the answer to what they've been looking for in terms of having a center where teachers, like where the librarians and the teens could interact with one another and just feel comfortable and work together, collaborate on projects. So I feel like this is definitely the response to YASLA, the article we were reading last week.
It sure does seem like this is very well aligned with the YALSA white paper, and I'm really glad you're emphasizing one key idea there, Michael, which is that the idea is this is a space that promotes relationships. We heard one boy say that he comes to this space so that he can actually interact with the other people who are there. And I feel like that's a really interesting way of thinking about the distinction between a grocery store and a kitchen. Right? You know, in a grocery store, you walk down the aisle and pick up your vegetables and meat and, you know, canned goods. And I walk down the aisle and I pick up my stuff, and it's a transaction. You know, you check them out, you pay for your goods, and you leave. But a kitchen is a really social space, right? And if you've ever had a party where people cook together, you realize that you learn a lot about somebody by chopping onions with them. And the idea that a library becomes a space where people come together to make things that involve their use of stories, right, books, media, it's a very different model than the checkout transactional model of a grocery store. And I'm not sure whether librarians are fully up for that challenge, because a different set of skills are needed to be, you know, to create an environment that's like a kitchen. But I do feel like it's because of the hunger for kids to form relationships that are meaningful that seems to be at the heart of it. So I am absolutely intrigued by the new media model. I'm thrilled that there are experiments going on in the Central Falls Public Library, in the Cranston Public Library, and I hope you get a chance to see some of the amazing, in the Providence Community Library, I hope you get a chance to see some of the robust experiments that are happening across Rhode Island as librarians in many communities here are trying to bring digital media into the lives of adolescents. All right, now that being said, let's move on because we're coming to the end of our time here together. So I want to give you a sense of what you should be paying attention to next. Kristen Hokinson is calling me, and I'm going to not respond to that call. Sorry about that. What I'd like you to do after class is watch this short video called Audiences Negotiate Meaning. This comes from Canada. And after watching the video below, use the Titan pad to respond to the questions. Right? The video asks a little question at the end. See if you can make some connections between what we've been reading about and this short little video, which I think is quite interestingly produced. Now, next week, I'd like you to do these activities before our class on Monday. I'd like you to watch this video of Rincey from Rincey's BookTube channel. I'm really interested in the fact that there's very little scholarship on the people who are active in the BookTube community. Look at some examples of her work on her YouTube channel. What are the most meaningful insights or takeaways from this video? What kind of research questions might be explored in examining the motivation of people who are active in the BookTube community? And then I'd like you to compose a Flipgrid response. So there is very little scholarship in the LIS community about a robust part of the online ecosystem called the booktubers. What can you learn from watching this one video and by looking at this one individual who is part of that community? Next, I'd like you to watch the YALSA webinar on literacies. This is a webinar that I got to participate in with Jack Martin, Marika Visser, and Ernie Cox, really amazing librarians. And we talked about teens, literacies, and libraries. As you watch it, I would like you to pull out 3 intriguing quotes that are relevant to your interests and tweet them. I've given you the Twitter address for Jack Martin. He's now the director of the Providence Public Library. I couldn't find Ernie Cox or Marika's Twitter, but use the hashtags for YALSA and LSC 530, and we'll see if we can pull out some sound bites. I want you to practice live tweeting. Live tweeting is when you are participating in an event or watching something and you are capturing with concision key ideas. So 3 intriguing quotes as you watch that webinar. And then finally, I want you to watch this really cool, this is a very short little, I think it might be 7 or 8 minutes. One of my favorite early childhood librarians is a woman named Ken Campbell. And she talks about her project called Little E-Lit. She's an example of one of those entrepreneurial librarians that I'm searching down and tracking, right? I'm stalking them, actually, right? She's a very entrepreneurial early childhood librarian, and then what I'd like you to do is watch her video, and then on the Titan Pad, see if you can describe and analyze some key features of her work. Now, let's take a look at the readings for next week. We're just going to read 2 short pieces by Joyce Valenza, 14 Ways K-12 Librarians Can Teach Social Media, and her piece on curation, which has been widely circulated on School Library Monthly. And we're also starting to dig in to the lovely Virginia Walters book, 21st Century Kids, 21st Century Librarians. This is a very slender little volume, right? Not a big heavy read, but absolutely intriguing at her conceptualization of how libraries have to change. Now, as you read, you may not be aware of how controversial this book actually is. So as you read, I want you to think about, what is this book controversial? And to whom is this book controversial? So we're reading just chapters 1 through 4, pages 1 through 77. So now I'm going to go back to the screen share just to talk with you about what's coming up. You can see on the coming up list that next week I want you to send me an email where you describe your preliminary ideas about your final paper or project. That can be in a very informal form, but in a form, hopefully, that'll allow me to give you some feedback and some ideas about whether this is appropriate, what form it might take, and what other things you might be reading or looking at. Then there's the notation about hopefully you'll be able to come to the Saturday, October 25th Technology Day. And obviously, you know you're building toward your multimedia review project, which is due on November 3rd. Now, before I let you guys go, you know that the questions you ask are among the most valuable questions for this class, because the students who aren't here tonight live, they may have questions. So would you like to ask any questions that will help you to be more effective in LSC 530, or questions that relate to the activities for this week, or questions that you think other students might have? Questions?
Yes, I have a question about the final paper, actually.
Yes?
I know it's a long ways away, but does it have to be, I mean, is it going to incorporate like multimedia as well?
Oh, Michael, I'm so glad you're asking that question. Thank you so much for asking that question. So I'm just going to take us up to the page where the information about the course, about that final project can be found. I'm going to work, I'm going to assignments, and I'm going to, hold on here. I'm going to work, I'm going to assignments, and I'm going to, I got to widen my screen here. Hold on here. Well, there we go. Work, assignments, research paper, or creative project. You have three choices of how to proceed. Thinking about doing something that is going to expand your expertise. That's why you go to graduate school, you guys, to expand your expertise. So option 1 is a research paper. Here I'm looking for a paper that could be presented at an academic conference. This is where you acquire knowledge on a topic of interest to you by reading deeply and widely, and you offer your unique interpretation of what you're learning in a written form. If you choose to write a research paper, you're going to gather information and write a scholarly paper, 15 to 25 pages. This is the most traditional form of advancing your knowledge as a graduate student, and it can be very effective. But you can also choose to develop a creative project, and that can take an endless number of forms. To do that, you submit the project and a detailed production notebook that shows and talks about how you created your creative project, right? So in that case, you submit the project and the notes and other materials that you used to create it. Your third option is you can develop a school or community project, and that can be and then you submit a detailed document that describes your aims, your goals, and the process of developing an initiative. And if none of those options fit, you actually have the world is your oyster option. Be creative and collaborative and sell me an idea. So my experience in teaching grad students for the last 30 years is that rather than me tell you how you learn best, you're empowered to show me how you can best advance your own intellectual development by developing a project that connects to the ideas we're exploring in this class and meets your own learning goals. I don't know if that makes it clear or less clear.
Yeah, that makes it clear.
Cool. Other questions that you have? Okay. That means that we've come to the end of our live Google Hangout. I am so grateful. Chelsea, you have shown up and participated. Christine, you were amazing. Michael, you asked a great question. Valerie's like actually working and walking around and experiencing this with her cell phone. Valerie, we think you're the coolest because you're doing the Google Hangout via your smartphone. That is awesome. And Billy, I think you were the first to arrive, so you get the prize for first to show up. So thank you for joining me tonight. I will look forward. Oh, you guys, I forgot to tell you one thing. This may or may not have an impact on the class. Next week, on Monday, what day is that? The 15th or 13th, I will be hosting this class from Singapore. Yes, you heard me correctly. I'm giving a speech in Singapore, and I will be participating in our class live 12 side of the planet. Singapore has the fastest internet speeds in the world, so I'm thinking everything's going to go fine, but if I have a technology snafu, I'll email you, because maybe I won't be able to have a Google Hangout. I mean, who knows? I don't know. I've never been to Singapore. But know that I'm going to be in Singapore, but I will be online with you next Monday night, 7 o'clock. I hope you join me then. All right, let's give our goodbye wave. Goodbye. I'll see you guys next week.
Bye. Have a safe trip.
You too. Bye.